22-year-old Ryan's Tourette's is so bad, he's thought to have one of the most extreme cases in the UK, and that makes finding a job a nearly impossible challenge.
And apologies in advance if you find anything offensive in this, but we think it's important to allow Ryan to speak freely.
So this started at about 15?
Nope. Yeah, when I was 15, I went through about a month or two of just pressure in my head. And obviously 15's a year, like the sort of year where you're going through a lot of puberty, and then you've got your GCSEs on top of that. So having that amongst everything else was just, like, horrible.
And they didn't really know what it was. They thought that because you had this intense sort of head pains, migraines. They thought it was cluster migraines.
Yeah, they no! Yeah, ow. They classed it as cluster migraines, and that's all they put it down to. And then I was doing a drama performance, and after I'd finished that, I turned around to my teacher and I said I need to go to the medical room.
Yeah.
So I sat in the medical room for about half hour, and then just the only way I can describe it is if somebody's like popped a balloon in a small space.
Yeah.
So suddenly all that space has come back in my head. And then my head started twitching. So obviously the schools rang my dad, the hospital, off I go. And yeah, they put me through tests for tumours to see if there's anything else in my brain that wasn't working. And
That's frightening.
Well, eventually they thought you were going to grow out of it.
yeah, they class it as teenage tics, but it's sort of, I didn't have many vocal tics at that point. It went from head, shoulder, and then one day I was on the floor looking like I was having an epileptic fit.
Because you got a job when you were 21, I think.
Yeah.
You were working. But it got worse.
It did. So I managed to get myself through the end of school, done 3 years at college, and then thought I'd go to uni. And then these seizures that I didn't know were tic tacs at the time were just happening on a frequent basis. I was so far away from home. They said it's probably best that you go home.
Oh, gosh.
And then I went to work, and then a year ago, February, just gone. Yeah. I thought I was going to be like having one of my seizures, so I went and sat down in the manager's office. Nubbin! Yeah. And yeah, I asked for a glass of water, and then I instantly responded saying, "No, you can die of thirst." Out of nowhere.
And that was it. And that was the beginning.
Did it shock you when it happened?
It was very shocking. It was sort of like, oh, okay. At first, I didn't know if I was going mad, if I was talking to myself, or
Yeah.
I was like.
Where did that come from? And you describe how it feels, because to resist it, it hurts. You can't do it.
It does hurt. The only way I can describe it is if you want to sneeze, and you want to really sneeze, and somebody says you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do that here.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to let that sneeze out. That's what it feels like to constantly suppress
Holding it back.
And then people don't get that. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of stigma around it. That's
And you say that what you say, a lot of the vocalisations are observational.
Yeah, they are. So there's like, I'm not racist, but this is one of my big point of views that I want to make across is I will go around town, and I almost pulled a lovely lady's hijab off, telling her it's too warm for a scarf. This was in the summer, and that upsets me because I'm not that kind of person.
What sort of luck have you had with applying for jobs?
The funny thing is I wasn't actually, when I was approached by the programme, I wasn't actually looking for a job, because it wasn't long before that I was going around a shop and 2 workers in their uniform were following me around, copying my noises and laughing and pointing at me. So, and they were in uniform and they were working. Luckily now that's been resolved. I was called in by the manager to talk to all his staff about all different disabilities.
Yeah.
So I can't fault that manager in that store anymore, but it knocks you down to the point where you don't want to come out.
You say that roughly the same amount of people suffer with Tourette's that suffer with autism, but there's 1% of the funding for Tourette's.
It's about the research. So I've recently completed a report for the British Psychology Society, and I did a desktop literature review of all of the evidence that we have about various conditions in the workplace. And so there's more research on Tourette's in children, but there's very, very few papers on Tourette's in adulthood.
And what about advice for anybody with a disability who's trying to find their place in a workplace? What advice would you give to them?
So people with disabilities have often been told all the things they can't do. So going through a diagnosis like Ryan's been through is quite a limiting experience. He's constantly surrounded by experts saying, these are all the things that you're struggling with, these are the things that you find difficult. And so it's really important to just re-engage with the things that you can do and remember that you have strengths and you have abilities. And Ryan's got amazing strengths and abilities. He's a wonderful person to be around and he's really hardworking, really creative, and all of those things sort of shine through when you get to know him.